Hello, everyone. I am going live today. My name is Kerry George. I'm with CIBN Connect, and I'm going live today to tell you stories. I thought it might be a good idea for me to introduce myself to you and actually talk about who I am and where it came from and why you should even give a rip. Okay? Why should you listen to me over anyone else that's out there giving you business ideas or business advice or anything like that? Why me? Right? So I'm going to tell you some stories about where I came from, and I hope you enjoy the ride and enjoy the journey today. So I always think about when I start these kinds of things like, how far back should I go? You know, I was born a coal miner's daughter. No, I was born a farmer's daughter, actually, in a place called Saskatchewan. And for those of you who are not from Canada, you might go, where the hell is that? Is that a real place? Yeah, it is. Saskatchewan is actually kind of like the northern states of the U.S. It is the breadbasket of the world. It's where there's a lot of farming. And that's where I grew up, on a farm. And I had a pretty easy childhood, a pretty nice childhood, actually. I know many people, as I grew up, I realized had not such a nice childhood. I actually had a decent home and a family that loved me, and not a lot of friends. I didn't have the most friends when I was a kid, but I bring up the fact that I was raised on a farm for a reason, because it means that I have work ethic, really strong work ethic. I was raised by a farmer who was a real workaholic, but loved his kids, and gave him a strong family and a good support system. And that's what I grew up in. So that's kind of what I modeled as I became an adult. But the story, began there, and it went a long ways away from there, okay? Because by the time I was 16 years old, I was a very independent person. Even at a very young age, I would say, I want to move off the farm. I don't feel like I belong here. I wanted to be an actress and move to Hollywood, and I had no idea what that even meant. As I got older, I realized that that there were other things, that I was good at. I actually was a good singer. I started singing with country and western bands and stuff like that. I grew up listening to people like Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline, and I really liked to do that. One of my first earliest businesses that I ran was a karaoke business. I actually bought about $30,000 worth of equipment and would travel all over Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, and then eventually settled at a place called Fort McMurray. And for those of you who are from Canada, you know that that's really, really, really north in Alberta, and a very, very cold, chilly place that's an oil and gas town where they mine the oil out of the sand up there. And I lived there for a couple of years, and was running a karaoke business. It was my first involvement with network marketing, happened at that time, way, way back then. These were things that, helped form me. And before moving up there, I had spent a couple of years with the military. So again, hard work ethic. I think one of the things that the military gives you is a real strong sense of loyalty, patriotism, and it helps you, develop discipline in your life. And I know that over the years, those are things I look back on with fond memories. And back in those days when you joined the military, they told you it's all equal for men and women, and you can be anything you want to be. And they told you all this before you signed up. And then you join them, and it was not necessarily so back then. If anyone's been around for 30 years or so from that kind of history, they might know what I'm talking about. They used to make jokes about us jumping from ditch to ditch with that typewriter on our backs, because we were still using those back then. Yeah, I can remember typewriters. So I see Tanya Weber says, I grew up and I live in Saskatchewan. Hello, Tanya. I feel ya. That's where I grew up too. And as I got older, 16, I moved out. I started doing other jobs. I sold insurance for a while. As I mentioned, I got into network marketing, moved up to Fort McMurray. Started doing karaoke up there and it was one of my first successful businesses, was a karaoke business. And then I did what a lot of people do when they're young. I got married, right? And some people, man, that was the beginning of their wonderful story. For me, that was kind of a nightmare. It didn't work out well. I had only one criteria for the man that I was going to marry. My mother told me that I should look for someone who's tall, dark, and handsome. I later found out that was poor advice. I found Tall, Dark, and Handsome, and it was a nightmare on legs. Okay. And I found myself in an abusive situation. A couple of years of that, I moved out of that situation, and now I had 3 small children, and I was a single mom out in the world alone. So, those are kinds of things that, when you were a child, you never said, well, when I grow up, I want to be a single mom and live in a house where I get battered. No, those are not things that anyone wishes for. They just kind of happen to some of us. And that was something I had to recover from. And I went through, as I was going through the healing process of that, my life took a sharp turn in another direction. I see you there, Facebook user. Hello. I'm not sure who you are. I see you saying hello. I see Tanya there, and definitely comment. And if I'm saying anything that resonates with you, that's part of your story, by all means, tell me in the chat. Tell me in the comments after when you're watching this video. What resonates with you? Like, how did your life go as you were growing up? What are some of the lessons that you learned along the way? So at that point in my life, my whole journey took this sharp turn because I had an experience with God that was really incredible, and it changed my life. And it was kind of the Paul on the road to Damascus thing. I really, really got knocked to the ground and really changed my life. And when that experience happened to me, I wanted to go into something where I help people. I just suddenly love people. I wanted to help people. And my whole road took this sharp turn to, I became a pastor. And for 14 years, I was a pastor. And during my time that I pastored, I learned to nurture people and love people and just really love the hell right out of people. And I had many positive and rewarding experiences during that time. And it's also where I really began to develop my writing skills, as I had to take these steps into my life to, get my pastoral degree and stuff like this. I have a degree in divinity. So as I did all of that, I had to study, I had to learn to write, and those writing skills continued to serve me after I got the education. I started to write, I wrote a book that became very popular in the Christian book market. I wrote Bible studies, and they were translated into multiple languages and used all over the world. I started to write stories for other people, wrote poetry, I wrote for magazines. And as I was going through that time, the 14 years in the ministry, like, it was a joyous time. It was a wonderful time. I've had people say to me, oh, Kerry, did you leave the ministry because, you got burnt out or angry, or are you mad at God? And no, none of that. None of that. It was part of the journey. As I was going through those experiences, along the way, I knew that at some point I'm going to go into business. I just knew that. I knew that was something that I was called to do. I was going to pursue business. But at that point, that's where I was, and that's what I was doing. I was working with people. As time went along in the ministry, I actually started working with poor people and the poorest of the poor as time went along. And even though I was a prosperity preacher, it began to affect my outlook on life. And I didn't really realize how much it was affecting me until 2010, when I did my income taxes that year. I realized I made $16,000 that year, and I was raising 3 kids on that. We had all kinds of miracles that were happening in our life that were keeping us afloat, but financially, I wasn't looking toward the future. And at that point, I had a real crisis that was happening. A storm was taking place in my life. I had 3 children, and one of my children really needed some stuff financially because of mental health. And I was not in a position to do it. And that became a driving force for me. That actually was a turning point. I realized that this was the why, that I needed to do something different, and that I couldn't control things like the economy, and I couldn't control, so many different things that were happening. I couldn't control if I was offering something, if people would buy it. I couldn't control, so many things outside of myself. But I realized there was a journey that needed to happen. It was 6 inches right here between my ears. It was the biggest journey that I would ever have to take in my life. And that the only thing that I had control of was me. and I could control the 6 inches. So I began to invest heavily in me at that point. In 2010, I made a decision that I was going to go into business. Now, that was a scary decision. It was a new thing. And I was like a fish out of water when I started a business. I was. For 14 years, I had been immersed in ministry. And all my friends were Christians. Nobody knew anything about business. I had no idea of where to even go. But I had a formula that I'd used in the ministry. One of the things was that I needed mentorship because I used that in ministry. So I thought, well, I should probably use that in business. And I started looking for mentors. And my story began to change as I found mentors that were willing to mentor me. Now, interesting thing is that when you are broke and you are a hundredaire, millionaires don't tend to want to spend much time with you. They don't actually want to mentor you. Okay. So I had to go find people who had more than I had, or who were further ahead in life than I was, and ask them to mentor me. And my first mentors were people who owned their home, people who owned a vehicle, people who traveled a few months of the year, people who were stable financially. Because at that point in my life, I was none of those things. Okay. And even though I reached out to the guys on Shark Tank, they didn't want to mentor me. Who knew? So I had to go with people who were willing. And you know what? They were a great help to me. They helped me figure out how to get started in business and how to talk to people and where to go to find business. So way back then, one of my new mentors actually said to me that I should go out networking, that I should go to networking meetings to meet people. And I had figured out that what I wanted to do for a business was I was going to do marketing because I could write. I was a pretty good writer. And something that I was really good at that was new right then was this stuff called social media. Today, we all look at social media like, this is just normal part of life. But 20, 25 years ago, when all of this was, taking place, I guess that wasn't 25 years, 2010, 11, when this was taking place, social media was still pretty new. And I had been very active in it already for as long as it had existed. So I had been using email marketing to keep my church together. I had been using writing online and blogging and stuff like that. I had 5,000 friends on Facebook. And when Facebook was new and you had 5,000 friends, that made you an expert. So I put the word expert behind my name and I went out there and I tried to help businesses transition into this process of getting online and becoming more known on things like social media. And at that time, I adopted very quickly, learning about Twitter. And when LinkedIn came out, I was an early adopter of LinkedIn. We began getting business from these things very early in the usage of them. And in those days, that made me an expert because I was way ahead of the curve. Nobody else was doing it. So that was the service that I was selling to business owners. I would create the backdrops on their Facebook pages and write their stories and their blogs and put their stuff out into emails that would, feed and nurture their existing clients. And I began taking courses on that. And I started going out and just slogging my skills, like trying to get people to buy them, and I had to learn how to package things. I had to learn how to prepare them. I had to learn that business owners needed to have results. Business owners weren't interested in just necessarily making things pretty. It had to have, an ROI, return on investment. So I started to learn these words along the way. And I started to figure out how to put my stuff together in a way that I could sell it. And then I started going to networking meetings. And the networking meetings that again was another transformational part of my life and my story. Yeah, you're right. Being a pioneer is a great opportunity. When you're kind of out there in the front, in a way it's great opportunity, but I tell you, it's hard slogging sometimes because you are the forerunner and there's nobody who's really gone ahead of you. So it's hard to know where to go to get advice and help. But one of the places that I went to for mentoring was I didn't try to get it from within my industry because there wasn't a lot available within my industry immediately. but there were people who were successful in business. And what I started to realize is that the principles for all businesses are very similar. The systems that we might use for your business and my business, what we actually write and put on a page would be different, but the systems that we use and the tools that we use may be the same. And those were some of my early lessons in business. So I went out and started to go to networking meetings, and I was really excited about networking meetings because prior to going to networking things like Chamber of Commerce meetings or, different meetings where there's one person per industry and you meet for lunch every week and you meet the same people and they give each other leads and referrals. When I started doing that, that was a new experience for me. And prior to that, I was literally going door to door, knocking on doors of businesses and trying to kick that door open to get in. And it was hard work. And, it was hard to get 2 or 3 appointments in a day when you had to go do all this legwork. But when I went to a networking meeting, I realized there are 30 businesses here. Man, this is awesome. And they all want to talk about marketing. This is great. I felt like kid in a candy shop. I got in there and people wanted to listen to me because they didn't understand it at all. And I had some understanding. I had a captive audience. So I started networking. And like many people who begin networking businesses, in the beginning, I was doing it for completely selfish reasons. Okay. I just wanted to get clients for my marketing business. That's, because it was providing clients for me. And along the way, I met a fellow who owned a large business network. It was called the Calgary Business Network. It was here in the city where I got started. And he was having trouble with his marketing. So we did some horse trading. We exchanged services. That was another lesson for me, that what you can't buy, maybe you can trade for. And so I started doing that, started trading. And this helped me get into that business network. And when I started leading the groups, I became a leader and people responded and respected my opinion more. And that was another lesson that, becoming an influencer was profitable. So I began to use that and get more business from it. And as time went on, I was getting a lot of business from networking. In fact, in my first early years, I doubled my income like every year for 4 years, 16, 32, 68, 138, $368,000. Every year I doubled my income because I changed the way I thought. I was mentored by people. I started networking. And I also began this thing called masterminds, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But in the networking process, I began to make $150,000 a year just from networking for my business in the marketing field. And I realized after a while that other people weren't doing that. And I ended up taking over this business called the Calgary Business Network because the guy that I was kind of working with said he wanted to retire all of a sudden. I was like, you can't retire. Don't you get it? I'm getting all this business from this network. And if you retire, that's going to be gone. And he's like, well, why don't you just take it over then? And he sold it to me for a song and a dance. And the next thing I knew, I owned the Calgary Business Network. And then as I started to do more of that, I realized I was good at it and it was fun. And that business owners really needed social media help. And we kind of started to blend that in and offer courses for the group. About a year into that, one of my largest competitors reached out to me and said that he wanted to retire from running a network. He had 17 groups across the city. These were groups that met for lunch and they fed each other leads and referrals. And there was one person per industry in every club. And he had a big price tag attached to that of what he wanted. Now, I had just dug myself out of a hole. I didn't have a lot of money. And in fact, there were still months of struggle happening at that point in my life. This was only about 2012. And but I had learned a new term out in my networking. The new term was OPM. Anyone ever hear of OPM? Other people's money. Okay. I found an investor and I got help. I got the help that I needed and we bought that larger network. And with a stroke of a pen, I became one of the owners of one of the largest business networks in Western Canada. And because I had been out doing networking for the last couple of years and I had some mentoring and I had a lot of success with networking, I knew what business owners would need to do in order for this to work for them. But it wasn't without struggles, let me tell you. I had been a pastor for 14 years, and I knew if you took over a church that usually 50 to 60% of the population of that church will leave within a year. I knew that. So I figured when I bought this business that might be the same. And I was right. Bang on, actually. Fortunately, my son and I became partners in this, and we had another, yeah, you like that? Other people's money. That's a good one, right? My son and I, we had this other partner. We started, as we were building this business of the networking business, we began to realize that we needed to change the culture of it. And we knew that people were leaving anyway, so it was a good time to change the culture. And we were good salespeople. We were good at getting in front of people and asking for them to make a decision. And they seemed to like the vision that we had. So all of those things combined, we were able to replace the ones that were leaving as they left. New ones were coming in, and we were able to get this thing going. In those days, we were doing all of this in restaurants. It was all live networking. So, when people would complain to me about, geez, I spent too much money eating in a restaurant every month, or, I last year did my taxes, and boy, we spent too much money eating in a restaurant. You have no idea what too much in a restaurant looks like. I'm going to tell you. My restaurant bills for the next 10 years were about $180,000 a year. Hello. That was some of the overhead of running that kind of a business. So we were doing a lot of live networking meetings. Now, some interesting things happened along the way. We learned a lot. In those early days, when we took over that networking group, you have to understand I had just come out of pastoring. So I was like a fish out of water at first. And I think many people, when they start their business, they're like a fish out of water. Because maybe they were good at one skill, or maybe they were good at making this thing that they sell, or maybe they're good at this providing a service, but we don't realize that when we start a business, we also have to know how to do bookkeeping, and we have to satisfy the government with our taxes at the end of the year. And we may not realize that we have to market ourselves, and that we have to sell ourselves, and that we have to sell a product. And that we have to sell it in such a way that it's profitable, that you can no longer think about yourself as being valued at $20 an hour, or even $50 an hour, or even, I got to a point where for a while it was $250 an hour. Now it's $2,000 an hour, by the way, is what I charge per hour for consultation. And it was quite a journey to get from that $20 mentality up to what it is today. Okay. There was a big journey. But you know what? The entire journey took place here in the 6 inches. Okay. And it can for you too. It starts here, and how you think about yourself, and also what you expose yourself to, and the training that you take, and the services that you deliver, and the success that you have over time. And all of that stuff began to happen for me. And the reason was, I was in front of hundreds of businesses in the beginning every year. And now it's thousands every year. So I started this business network, and that put me in business meetings, listening to business presentations every day. To date, I think last year we calculated that I had been in and facilitated over 6,000 networking meetings and over 2,000 mastermind meetings, which are brainstorming strategy sessions. So I have seen a lot, like a lot. Because in mastermind meetings, people bring the challenges, the problems they have. They bring the ideas they have, the decisions they need to make. And man, we have seen a lot in over a decade of doing this kind of work. So as I said, we started in one city. We had multiple groups. We had hundreds of members. And we were going out there doing this day in and day out. And by the way, I was having a great time. I loved it. Loved every minute of it. Just being in front of people and talking with people, hearing their stories and working with them in their businesses. Great sense of satisfaction came from that. I felt like I never left pastoring. I was still nurturing all these people, and it was so fun. And also we had great results. We were sitting in the middle of a community where in Calgary, it's kind of like Dallas is to Texas. Calgary is an oil and gas center, and oil and gas, for the last several years, really since 2006, 2008, really began taking a real crap kicking in the market. And what happened in our city as a result is that we had about 6,000 businesses a year in a city of 1 million going out of business every year. And of course, you might be familiar with the statistic that says that 80% of all businesses fail in their first 5 years. And that's something we were seeing, but it was really, really upfront in our face here, because in our city, prior to COVID, we had a 40% vacancy in our downtown properties, because our downtown commercial properties, because the economy had tanked. But at CIBN, in my company, where we were working with small business owners every day, mom and pop shops, life insurance agents, real estate agents, people who sell things, direct sales people. We were working with plumbers and electricians and people like a guy who makes, chocolate, sells out of his store, all kinds of businesses like this. People who have shops like auto mechanics and body shops, those kind of, carpenters, all these kinds of people we were working with day in and day out, hundreds of members a year. And our membership, we actually didn't lose a single business-to-business failure in 9 years of that kind of mess happening all around us. And then when COVID happened, we did lose 2. So I had to change my statistic and say we've helped 99%. But, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey that we've been able to influence business owners to such a significant degree that they were not having failure in their businesses, they were having success. And for many of them, they were doing things like doubling their revenue, tripling their revenue with their involvement with my company. So I had a great sense of satisfaction in the middle of that. And about 2015, I began to realize that, you know what, we're having such an impact here. We should actually think about taking this online. And I remember talking to people about it in that time in 2015, and they're like, oh, Kerry, you can't do networking online. You got to be eyeballs to eyeballs or belly to belly. You got to shake hands and exchange business cards. And it's just not going to work online. And of course, my background in online marketing, I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm buying that. I think it could work online. I think we should try it. So 2017, I invested in a bunch of tools. I started investing in like a video portal where we would take a lot of the training that we had done and turn them into videos and put them into this portal for the members. Because by this point, we were developing these trainings. And the trainings were things like, social media boot camp, so that the average business owner would have a clue of what it is they should be doing or paying for instead of wasting their money and their time. So social media boot camp was a huge hit. We ran it 3 or 4 times a year, and the business owners just soaked that up. And I thought, if we put it on video, then I wouldn't have to physically be running it continuously. And that should be helpful. So we did that. Today we have all kinds of things. We have quarter launch, which happens every 3 months at CIBN. And quarter launch is 90-day goal setting, so that people can run their small business like a big corporation. So we had implemented that. We had a networking boot camp where we train people on how to network. And today we have the Ultimate Networking Weekend, which happens once a year as well. And why we have that is because we realized along the way that the average person's experience in networking wasn't mine. My experience was you can make $150,000 a year or more as a small business or a solopreneur or even in direct sales if you're doing networking properly. But the reality is most people don't know how. They go to a networking meetings, they hand out some cards, then the next day they struggle to make calls. They line up a few appointments, they don't get a sale. So they think, well, this networking thing sucks, doesn't work. And I cannot tell you how many people over the years that I have met who said, oh, I've tried networking and my people that I need to talk to are not at those meetings. They're not at any meeting. Get over it. That's not how networking works. Networking works because people get to know, like, and trust each other. And they all have clients. They all have family. They all have friends. And when they know, like, and trust you, they will make the introduction for you and make the way easy for you, because they'll tell the person about how awesome you are and why they need to sit down with you. And your closing ratio from being referred by someone in a networking organization is like 50% instead of 1 out of 5 or 10 when you're trying to do it on your own. So networking is amazing when it's done right. But there's this process that has to happen that gets people to know, like, and trust you. It doesn't just take off the second That, it's not instant rice. You don't show up at a networking meeting and meet somebody once or have a one-on-one once and they're like, oh, you're my best friend now. I'll give you every person I know. No. And you're not like that either, right? When somebody asks you for a referral and you don't really know them, you're looking at them like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to give that to you, right? So how do you make those processes easier? Well, in our company, we created something called the Networking Success Path, where we actually walk people through how to do this. And we help them to do one-on-one networking as well as build a network online that complements it so that they have like 10,000 connections. That is a huge, huge difference, because if you don't have at least 10,000 connections in your online world, when you make a post, it goes nowhere. No one sees it. And that means that the only way you can get anything happening online is to buy ads. And you think about what is an ad? What is it, buying an ad? It means that you're getting to use the connections of Google or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you're buying the ad, right? Using their connections to send your message out to those people. But if you had your own and you had a strategy, you wouldn't need that. We don't run ads. I've built an empire. I don't run ads. I've helped other people build an empire. We don't run ads. We use grassroots methods. We use very simple ideas, and we just use them over and over and over again. I work them like a rented mule. Okay. And these are some of the things that we've put out into the network over the years. This is some of the stuff that we built into our network so the members can have access to that. And as we went along, we had some tremendous success stories. Lots of people whose lives were dramatically changed from the networking, also from the masterminds that we put on. And the masterminds are, like I said, they're brainstorming, strategizing sessions. They're deeper, they're more intense. And over the years, I've ran over 2,000 of them. So I've been in front of just about every business problem you can imagine. I've been in front of multiple industries. I've been in front of the sizes of businesses everywhere from a solopreneur or an email or someone maybe who has like direct sales, network marketing, to the small shop owner, all the way up to, owning an airline. Okay. So I've been in front of every imaginable size of business and seeing the challenges that businesses have. There are things that are different and many things that are the same. And so we've been able to impact that and change lives in that. And the mastermind process was a huge part of that. It's not just a story out of a Napoleon Hill book. Okay, masterminds work. And they're used in places like, Facebook, Google, Yahoo. These companies, they use masterminds all the time. So we help normal people, everyday people, do that and do it well so that they have epiphany moments and they build empires, one brick at a time, one small piece, one small system, one thing at a time. And we put it out there in pricing that is manageable for even the smallest business to be able to afford, the solopreneur. We make it available for people like that. And that's what I've been up to for the last 10 years. And we've had some incredible, 10 years, 12 years, gosh, it's been so long. And it's been fun. We've had these incredible experiences and we've built incredible relationships and I'm surrounded by people that are like friends, that like family. So as we go along in this story, I think for many of you, there was a pivotal moment back in March 2020. Anyone remember that? Yeah, where the world changed. So let me bring you up to where we were at that point. Business was good. It was pretty good. We actually had just taken on a new partner, got more other people's money. We were about to expand. We were looking at expanding into 2 more cities. We had launched online marketing in 2019, May of 2019. And online networking. And in the online networking we were doing, we had people actually joining us from all over Canada and all over the United States for a couple of meetings every week. And we were thinking, we want to do more of this. It definitely works. In fact, what we found was it was a quarter of the cost for us and them. It was a quarter of the time for everyone involved. No volunteerism necessary. Just show up right before the meeting starts, leave as soon as it's over. A great use of time and money for us and for the members. But the incredible thing was it was 3 times the profit. That was something that was unexpected. For them, for you, for members, people. 3 times the effectiveness doing it online than when we were doing it live. And that was astounding. We were very encouraged by those numbers. But we come into March 2020. Now you got to imagine, for years and years of me being involved with all these business meetings and doing masterminds and everything, you get a sense of what's going on in the market sometimes before the market actually does something. I mean, some people might call it intuition. Some people might call it just experience of just, being involved in businesses so much every day, day by day. So January, of course, 2020 starts happening. I start hearing about this thing that's happening in Wuhan, China. And we already recognized that it was having an impact on a couple of our businesses. We had a Chinese food restaurant that was a big sponsor of CIBN and had been for years. And the owner informed me that business was down in January and February of that year. In fact, it was starting to impact him because people were afraid to come there because they were hearing rumors of something happening in China. And somehow they equated that with going to a Chinese food restaurant in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, like it had anything to do with that. But he knew his numbers. He knew he was down. And as he was telling me these stories and other people were saying things, I'm reading things online, I'm like, something's about to happen here. Something's about to go down. And in fact, we were taking on a new person to join our team, Ted Grove at that time, and he was going to make a significant financial investment in our company. And as this was happening, I said, well, maybe we should hold off on this because we were going to use that to expand into 2 cities. And I said, I think something's about to happen here and it could change the way we do business. And Ted said, nope, I'm good. I'm in. I'm coming in with you. I said, okay, but I think we should hold off on our expansion plans for just a couple of months. Let's wait this out and see what happens. And then sure enough, March happens. 2 days before the government made their announcement here and started lockdowns, I actually woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't sleep. And I'm like, oh my God, something's gonna, So what I ended up doing was I closed the meetings down that day and made an announcement in the network that we were going to go to all online meetings. And some people in our network thought I was crazy. They were like, what? This is going to pass. This is nothing. I was getting phone calls and people were, and even one of my competitors that I'm friends with, we do things together with, called me up and told me how nuts I was. And he was going ahead with his meetings and I should too, and stop being so crazy. And I said, no, I think this is going to happen. And I think you need to buckle up because bad juju is about to go down. And he just, told me I was nuts, got off the phone. Of course, I was right. 2 days later, everything's locked up tight. And our business owners are calling us frantically. They don't know what to do. So we're helping them pivot. But I have to tell you what this did to our business. Okay. We had significant revenue coming in at that time. Okay. And what was happening was we had built a business that we were selling stuff we had sponsorship packages that people would buy for $6,000, $10,000, and $25,000. Our basic membership level back then was $700 up front and $150 a month. Our mastermind level was about $5,000 a year, and we had hundreds of members that were paying us this kind of money. And when we went to all online and the world started to make this transition, I realized we were about to lose a significant number of members. And you got to understand, members to me are not just members paying a bill. They're like family. Okay, these are people who we have been belly to belly with. We've been doing stuff with. We've been out there cheering these people on and helping them in their business for some of them for years. And I'm realizing that they're about to have a financial crunch of a huge magnitude. So I reduced the price of our membership to $59 a month, which it has remained to this day. And it probably will go up next year again, but it's still at $59 a month. Now, I did that because I wanted to keep them together. I wanted them to stay with us because, as I mentioned, they're like family to me. I don't want to lose them. And I knew the fees that they were paying, they were going to see that as too much, and they're going to vacate. They're going to have to, because they're all looking to cut cut down their expenses all of a sudden. So, and sure enough, over the next few days, I get several calls and emails. Well, I gotta let my membership go because I can't afford it. And I would say, well, are you aware that we dropped the price to $59? And as soon as I would say that, they would go, oh, really? You did that? Oh, that's great. Okay, I'm gonna stay. We kept them. We lost 4. We lost 4 people. 4. We kept them all together. It was amazing. So we had a 96% buy-in over the next 24 hours as we did that. But you got to understand that created an economic disaster in my company. Okay, we were used to bringing in between $20,000 to $50,000 a month easily, and some months more. And suddenly we did an 80% nosedive, crash. Right? I have staff. I have overhead. We have partners. Everybody's working. Who's going to get paid? We got to suddenly make some decisions. Because you can't, it takes a lot of $59 memberships to make up for what the difference was there in $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 products. Hello? That was painful. So, and not only that, even though we had things set up for the online world, we've been running some online meetings, we didn't have some of the support systems set up. Like in our business, we have, like, for example, email campaigns that when someone joins the network, they get a series of things that tells them this is where you get this, and this is for you in the video portal, and here's your little special deal on that. And we had all that set up for live meetings, but we didn't have very much set up for online meetings. So all this happens, our revenue basically gets kicked out from underneath us. And while we're trying to save ourselves, the phone is ringing off the hook with business owners like John Nielsen, who owns an auto mechanic shop, saying, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I think I'm going to lose my business because I just watched my friend go out of business and I watched my competitor go out of business, and nobody has been in my business for 2 weeks, and I've had to lay all my staff off, and I think we're going down. So I have to help people like this, which, by the way, we did extremely well, extremely effectively. So effectively that John Nielsen recently stood up in a meeting and said that 2020 was his best year ever in 18 years of business. And CIBN Connect was the reason why. So we not only saved ourselves right then, we saved the organization. We saved hundreds of members in this process. And we made the shift online. We opened up new areas. And I'll tell you something that I did that was, my partners thought I was nuts. But 12 years of being in the middle of all these kinds of messes that people go through, it gives you some insights. When the ship was going down, I invested in me. I took the last bit of money that we had and I bought a course, because I looked around. I was looking for something because I realized that what we're about to embark on, this is completely online membership, subscription-based business now. We no longer have the live to support us. And I need help. I looked around, I went, I got to find somebody who knows something about this. And whatever they want, I got to give it to them. Because if we don't, we're gone. And they're going to be gone. See how emotional I get? Because these people that trusted us with their livelihood. These are our members. These are our friends. This is my family. So we couldn't go down, and we couldn't let them go down. We had to fight right to the last bit to get out of this and help them get out of this. So I went to the bank and looked at the last dollars we had left, and we were depleted because we went at 80% nosedive, and the expenses were still coming in when the money was going out. And we did get some of those expenses in check, but it took 3 or 4 months to get it. So it basically emptied everything we had. And now I needed a course that was about $3,000 USD, and it was pretty much the last of the money. I didn't even ask the partners. I went and did it. They just about lost their bananas over it when they realized what I had done. And I said, you know what? We have to do this, because the only thing that we can invest in when times get tough is ourselves. And that's what I did. I bought a course, and that course saved our bacon, because it showed us how to do what we needed to do faster so that we could get it done. And not only were we able to get it done for us, we were able to get it done for others. And we turned that ship around. We got the water out of it, righted the ship and got it going in the right direction. And it's been nothing but, good times ever since. But it was pretty rough there for about 4 months. Really rough. Kerry went back to 16-hour days, 16 to 20-hour days, 7 days a week for 4 months. And we got it back where it needed to be. And life has been good. And we helped a lot of people along the way. And revenue is way back up higher than it's ever been. We now have groups in North Carolina. We have members right across Canada, United States. We got people from all over Africa. We have people that are coming in from, Asia and Europe and Australia. And CIBN is growing like gangbusters, right? But some of those lessons that we learned along the way were invest in yourself, because that's the best place to do it. It's the only thing that you can change. So this is why when I say we have a mastermind that you should be excited about and you should find out more about, you should definitely look into it, okay? Because we're changing lives. And our website is thecibn.com. And if you go to thecibn.com on the event page, there's always some free events that you can come to, that you could try out. And as this is going live right now, there are some really incredible ones there. If you go down the page, you'll see Discover meetings. They're called Discover Mastermind, or if you're watching us later, that could be Discover Networking or something like that. Those are incredible meetings, and they're free. They're 90-minute webinars, and they're about how you can have 3 times the success in your life. And we give away the secrets, the things that we've learned over the years. We give them away there. So I would encourage you to go there to thecibn.com/events or to the event page on thecibn.com. and sign up for one of those. I know that we have one that is happening right away. I think there's 3 or 4 left this month that we're going to be doing that. And if you're watching this at some future point, there's always something on that event page. Just go look, sign up for it, come on in, because we help business owners. And if you listen to my story today, you now know why we can. Because we did it ourselves. We pulled ourselves out of these messes. And then we helped other people do the same thing. And today, since the COVID thing happened, we've helped hundreds, I think thousands again this last year. It's been amazing. We got so many success stories. We have people who had given up, people who were just starting something and didn't know how. Now they know how. We have people like Leah Fink, who had a business that she was trying to get off the ground. And, she didn't even have a webinar. She just knew she wanted to do something online. Now she has a successful online business. And she also has face-to-face customers who've gone up as a result. We've got people who are very successful already, business coaches, and people who are tremendously successful already. They get even more successful when they come and join hands with us. We have people who need clients that make $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. And they find what they're looking for here because we show them how to find it. We have people who are just trying to start something. They don't know where to start. And we help them too. We have something for everybody who's a business owner, an entrepreneur, or thinks they want to be one. We help some of them too. I've met people who thought they wanted to start a business and had no idea what to start. And within a few months, they started a successful business, and many of those are still in business today. Some of our members have been with us since our inception. We have the highest retention rate in the networking industry. The highest. We actually monitor this stuff, and we show other people how to monitor the things that matter for them too. Because it's all true. We all have customer service. Every business has customer service issues, okay? Every business needs sales. Every business needs clients. Why don't we go together? If we work together, we get there faster. We get more things done. So I would encourage you to come to thecibn.com, sign up for a free event. If you like this video, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're not watching us on YouTube, I want to tell you that we have a YouTube channel. It's called CIBN TV. You can find it quite easily by searching CIBN TV, 2 words. If you do that, please subscribe. And when you're there, you're going to find out we have a lot of really cool free resources right there. All kinds of how-tos to get things done, covering subjects like social media, covering subjects like marketing, covering how to pimp out your LinkedIn profile and make it look good and hot so that people will actually come to it and call you and buy stuff from you. So we have all kinds of resources there for free for you at CIBN TV on YouTube. Please come and check it out, and check out our page. And definitely check out our website at thecibn.com. Come to an event. I'd like to meet you. Come and tell me you saw us on a video. And I hope you like my story. I hope it resonates with you. I hope that you decide to join us. And I hope that you decide to begin the journey of 6 inches, because that'll change your life. There's nothing quite like it. I like to end every broadcast and every meeting with the words, happy capitalism. So happy capitalism to you. I hope that this something that I said today changes your life, and that you too will have a great story. So happy capitalism to you all.